Hi, I'm Danny Quinn, and welcome to my first review for the Super Inc. Movie Club, a series where a group of people gather together and review a particular movie every month. It was started by fellow YouTuber Amy McLean, and you can get involved too if you're interested. This month's review is on the 1975 classic Jaws, the movie that made millions of people afraid to go into the water. It tells the story of a small seaside town, Amity Island, which comes under attack from a deadly shark. After a series of deaths, the town's police chief, Martin Brody, played by Roy Scheider, must team up with oceanographer Matt Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss, and professional shark hunter Quint, played by Robert Shaw, to track down and destroy the shark. However, they're probably going to need a bigger boat if they want to have any chance of destroying the deadly eating machine that threatens Amity's waters. So Jaws is pretty much one of the most iconic films of all time. It helped to define the notion of the modern day summer blockbuster, much like Star Wars in 1977, and it helped to launch the careers of many of those involved, most notably its director, one Steven Spielberg. It pretty much did for the water what Psycho did for sharks, and it also launched a wave of shark movies that still continues to this day with films of wildly varying quality, including a string of sequels that, I gotta admit, I've never seen. And considering what I've heard of them, I'm in no hurry to see them either. After all these years, Jaws holds up fantastically well in my opinion, and I think a lot of that comes down to the film's directing. Steven Spielberg does a fantastic job. He treats the material seriously instead of taking it like some silly B-movie like some other director probably would, and he manages to mine much tension and suspense out of the film. For one, he holds back quite a bit on actually showing the shark, supposedly because the animatronic for the shark wouldn't actually work on set, but this works to the movie's benefit, I think. You don't see much of the shark, but you can almost always feel its presence. It's always a constant threat, and it can appear at any possible moment. It's mostly a film of two halves. Up until the men get on the boat, it's a much more slower film, with the shark attacks being mostly spaced out. But the sense of build-up is still really strong in this part of the film, and I'm mostly engaged with the story because the dialogue is very good and the characters are very well written. Roy Scheider makes for a good protagonist. He's smart and he's resourceful, but he's also not very good in the water, and he's always constantly opposed by the mayor, who wants to keep the beaches open so that he can get money off of tourists. And whereas in other movies that sort of character could come across as very over-exaggerated and cartoonish, it actually works very well here. I think the character actually comes across as very believable. Yeah, you can understand why he does, even if he does make some very questionable decisions, but at the same time he's not completely heartless. And once the three men get on the boat to try and hunt down the shark, that's when the movie becomes more of a roller coaster ride as the tension builds. I love the setting on a ship out in the middle of the water with nobody to help you. It helps to create a feeling of isolation, and you feel trapped just like these three men do. And I always love horror movies that have isolation as a main theme. But it's also in this part of the film you begin to grow more attached to the three leads, particularly my favourite scene in the film where they're all comparing scars, and then they go to singing, then Quint starts telling them a story, and then all of a sudden they're attacked by a shark. It shifts so much in tone, but it's a great scene. Mainly because it's both funny, it's riveting, and it's scary in equal measures. And I love the uneasy dynamic that forms between these three men of very different backgrounds. Brody's very much a man of the land, Hooper's a very educated middle-class man, and Quint's very much a man of the sea. There's just something so appealing about seeing all these different people of very different backgrounds and upbringings coming together to try and stop a deadly threat. The main cast are all excellent. Roy Scheider's brilliant as Brody, Richard Dreyfuss does a great job as Hooper, but easily the standout of the main trio is Robert Shaw as Quint. He has some of the best lines in the film, he's crazy, he's a badass, and Shaw is absolutely fantastic in the part. And together the three have great chemistry together. The supporting cast in this movie is small, but they also do a good job too. Lorraine Gary does a good job as Brody's wife, even if she isn't really in the movie that much. And Murray Hamilton does an excellent job as the mayor. Again, I already talked about how the mayor could come across as very cartoonish, but he somehow doesn't. And I think a lot of that is because of Murray Hamilton's performance. He actually comes across as very believable. And the scene between the mayor and Brody in the hospital when they're talking about the shark attack, and the mayor's just like, my kids were on that beach too. That's probably one of my favourite scenes in the film. It really shows that the mayor isn't just a stock villain character. Again, much like the directing, the acting is of a very high standard. I never get the impression that anybody's treating the movie like a silly B-movie. Everybody takes the material quite seriously, and I think they all do a really good job. And of course, the film's score is iconic. John Williams pretty much became a household name as a result of films like this, Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And the score is overall fantastic, even though I won't personally call it one of my favourites of his. But considering the high quality of his other work, that is still saying something. It's still a great score. It's got that John Williams-esque sound and feel to it, it's got an adventurous tone, but there's also a great hint of menace to it as well. Especially the iconic theme song that Spielberg uses to great effect throughout the film. In the end, Jaws is still a fantastic movie that is dated very well after all these years. Spielberg's direction is fantastic, treating the material with a lot of respect. Imagine to mind as much attention and horror of the situation as possible, and the performances are overall fantastic throughout. I will admit I do slightly prefer the film's second half over the first half, largely because of the atmosphere and sense of isolation that the three leads feel. But regardless, it's still a great film. And I know it's very cliche to call this movie one of the best movies ever made, but I do think that is true. It is a very great movie, and it's also a very important movie, and because of its greatness, and because it still holds up very well after all these years, I'm going to give Jaws a very solid 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be doing these videos once every month from now on. The next review is going to be on Stanley Kubrick's 1971 classic A Clockwork Orange, which should be pretty interesting, I'm sure. But in the meantime, feel free to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. I'll be back soon with more reviews, but in the meantime, I'm Danny Quinn, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.